So everyone's talking about it. There's a brand new 4x4 on the way, but what exactly will be in store for us when we get our grubby hands on the new INEOS Grenadier? Welcome to Building the Grenadier. Over the next 12 months, I've been given exclusive access behind the scenes to find out exactly what the Grenadier will be and how it will be built, from the axles and chassis to the suspension, the powertrain and beyond. Fancy taking a look? Why not join me? INEOS say they're building the Grenadier using a classic 4x4 blueprint, so for them there was only one type of chassis to choose.
A ladder frame is the only way to build a proper off-road vehicle 4x4.
Ladder frames have been the basis for some of the most iconic off-roaders for over 70 years, starting with the Willys Jeep. So you could ask, why would INEOS use anything else?
We are not using a monocoque because we are not building an SUV.
Strong, stiff, rugged and reliable, ready for mud, sand, rock and snow, and ideal for attaching extra equipment like heavy-duty underbody protection or winches, and anything else you need in the field. Well, that's the plan. INEOS is creating the ladder frame in partnership with a highly experienced vehicle manufacturing company that has a proven pedigree of making ladder frames that can tackle the toughest environments. So the engineers are in no doubt at all. The Grenadier's skeleton will be a box section ladder frame. Now they'll happily give you a whole load of science and stats to explain why, but for mere mortals like us, the bottom line is absolutely clear. The ladder frame is super strong and a really well-proven 4x4 platform that over decades has helped aid organisations, conservationists, explorers, foresters and of course farmers work harder. For a 4x4 to get the job done, no matter how punishing the conditions, the Grenadier engineers feel that beam axles front and rear are essential.
Beam axle is the most robust design we can provide for this vehicle.
INEOS looked long and hard for the right supplier for the Grenadier's axles. They chose Carraro. Why? Because of their long history building tough four-wheel drive vehicles, including tractors, making them the perfect fit for the Grenadier. As you can imagine, there's been a whole lot of debate about whether the Grenadier should have independent suspension or beam axles. Now, both setups, of course, have their pros and cons, but on balance, the engineers have decided that beam axles are going to be more robust, less vulnerable to damage, and ultimately much more likely to keep you going when the going gets tough. Beam axles front and rear and a box section ladder frame. INEOS's vision for a no-compromise foundation to their ultimate 4x4. So the ambition is clear. They're starting with a blank sheet of paper. The Grenadier is being designed and built from the ground up. Every component chosen by engineers at the top of their game, and that's got to be very good news. Join me next time when I'll be trying to find out more about the suspension setup. The much talked about INEOS Grenadier is on its way, and I'm continuing my journey behind the scenes to find out exactly what the engineers are up to. INEOS has pulled together an international team of specialists to bring the Grenadier to life. There are around 60 companies already involved, and one of the key players is based here in Austria. Tractors, trucks, 4x4s, Magna has over a century of experience developing and building some of the world's toughest off-road vehicles. A good fit for this ambitious project. It feels like there's a bit of a Grenadier takeover here. There are around 100 engineers working on the project and 15 in this design office, focused on creating a suspension setup that meets the needs of people who use their 4x4s for work every day. People like Billy Milne, putting in the hard yards, looking after a large estate in the wilds of Scotland. The terrain is tough, punishing, challenging all year round. So Billy knows exactly what he wants.
An ideal 4x4 should be fit for purpose. It should be able to go where you want to put it, and it's got to have a good suspension system that rides through everything it's given. You want something basic, well set up, that does the job.
So there's a big expectation here. The best possible ground clearance, constant traction, and high axle articulation and suspension travel. So how are the engineers at Magna creating the ultimate 4x4 suspension? Well, by taking apart the world's most renowned off-roaders and benchmarking them, exploring three main options: leaf spring, coil spring or airbag, then using CAD to develop a theoretical new model that combines the best engineering ingredients to create something even better. And their conclusion? Well, there was only one way to go, it seems: coils and heavy-duty dampers. I met up with Magna engineer Matthias Mayer to find out more and to get an exclusive look inside their top-secret workshop. It's brilliant to see the suspension actually bolted to a chassis, and this is the Grenadier chassis now.
Yes, right. It's impressive.
It is really, really impressive. You've clearly gone with coil springs here. Why?
Coil spring is in our view the best option for this vehicle because we can have here a progressive spring curve.
This means the stiffness of the spring changes depending on the load. Add separate dampers and huge energy-absorbing bump stops, and the engineers believe they've created a unique package. So, underneath, two really hefty big bottom links, and then two slightly smaller top links.
That's right. This gives the stability against the rotation in this direction for brake torque and so on, and also good stability during the driving.
These four really strong links help stop the whole axle twisting or moving forwards and backwards. Back in the front then, we've got one link here, the panhard rod, that goes from the chassis over here
to the axle.
And its purpose
is the guidance in lateral direction.
So to stop the whole axle moving from side to side.
You have to be strong because more or less the whole axle load in lateral direction guided by this link. So this has to be massive.
And it's the same setup at the back. Where have you got to now in terms of developing the final suspension for Grenadier?
Yeah, so we have a great prototype setting now. We have a real great ground clearance, very high distortion angles on the axle itself. This enables a good traction on every off-road terrain you can think about. And of course we have a real high wheel travel. This enables a good drivability even in empty condition and also with a trailer on it.
There's no electronic control on this at all, I'm assuming. There are no wires anywhere.
Yeah, so there is completely free of electric components to be robust, to be easy to maintain, also to have easy access to all parts.
I tell you what, after months of only being able to look at computer-generated models of the suspension, it is so cool to finally be able to touch some real parts. But these are prototypes, of course. There's a whole heap of testing and fine-tuning to go. There's a bloke in Scotland, I know, who will be desperate to get his hands on this stuff and to show it a bit of good old-fashioned Highland hospitality.
Hopefully they will get it right. And if they listen to the people that's out there that's working the ground, working the land, and need a good rugged 4x4, I hope they get it right.
I hear you, Billy. Clearly building a rugged 4x4 is a huge challenge, but getting it right is exactly what INEOS are focusing on. That's why they've got the best people working on it, and I have to say, their confidence is impressive. I promised you exclusive access behind closed doors. Well, there you go. You're the only people who've seen that. Well, that's it for episode 2 of Building the Grenadier. Join me next time to find out more about the engineering of this radical new 4x4. Right, I catch up remotely with some of INEOS Automotive's senior management team to find out how they're handling the coronavirus challenge. Can you give me any examples of where it's been tricky?
Every shape that's created on the front of the rear of the vehicle must respect the approach and the departure angle. Otherwise, as you quite rightly said, people will not see this as fit for function.
Essentially, the Grenadier's base is going to be in Wales. Why Wales?
Well, we wanted to be able to create our own identity. What we wanted to do was have our own facility. We didn't want to take somebody else's. We wanted to create something specific.
Oliver, it's great to see you. What are the really big challenges to conquer from your point of view?
You have the digital engineering done, but now you have to actually put it in the physical world, and this is ahead of us.
Dirk, thank you very much for finding some time to speak to me. I know you're a very busy man. So what stage are we at now?
Coming out of COVID, coming out of that crisis, we have lost some time here and we need to make it up. We are not jeopardizing the quality, so we need to find ways of testing very hard, very rigorously.
What is that photo on the other side of you?
That's actually a picture of the winter testing.
That is the Grenadier.
This is a Grenadier prototype running in Sweden, yes.
When will the world get to see it?
I think it's a matter of weeks now. You can look forward to it soon.
I bet that's got you talking. Well, this is the man behind what you've just seen. His brief was very clear. Design the ultimate utility 4x4. This is a very big day for Grenadier.
Yeah, it's been a few years of pretty hard work. This is a very exciting day because it's the first time really that everybody can see what we've been busying ourselves with for the last few years.
Revealing the finished look of the car so early in its development, most manufacturers wouldn't dare do that.
I think because we're not really restrained in the way that a big manufacturer would. We don't have to protect an ongoing line of vehicles. You know, the view is that we just need to be really open about it. We'd much rather get the actual car out there, test it. Like to be nice and open. Why wouldn't you be?
The story about a pub in London, the Grenadier, a bunch of blokes having a few beers and coming up with this plan to build the ultimate off-roader. Is that really what happened, or was it a much more conventional brief to use?
No, it pretty much was exactly that. It seemed that the sort of last of the proper utility vehicles were about to stop. There was a character about them that we all kind of felt we were going to miss, and you look around and there was nothing that was really very appealing, and Jim being Jim, let's do something about it. And as we basically worked out what it was about the character of these older vehicles, what was the DNA that gave it that character, and as we understood more, you start to see why these vehicles start to look in the way that they do. We didn't sort of set out to make it look like anything else. It was always sort of engineering led. Function always wins.
Where did your influences come from in the way you creatively thought about the design?
Right at the beginning I remember saying we've got to design something super practical, really well built. If we can think of it in these terms now, all the rest of it gets kind of built onto there. If you look at any of the older, the Pajeros or the Nissan Patrols, the old Defenders, there's a real kind of easy to understand sort of visual on them. You can see how it goes together. There's no sort of clever disguising of A and B pillars and It's just very logical. You can see that's a structural beam, that's where something fits. And I think that makes it a very comfortable thing to live with.
So take me through in headline terms the design we've just seen, the exterior.
It's not a very complicated vehicle. You know, it has got that sort of boxy design, and that's really a result of a wheel in each corner, a ladder frame, then an engine of a certain size which needs a certain number of radiators and cooling and space for crashing, and obviously all the sort of departure angles and the entry angles and all that sort of stuff which we've tried really, really hard to respect. You have a round headlight, which again is about the sort of simplest form of a headlight you can get. It's almost like there's a tube that runs through, and then there's a rear light which is also round as well. We've got things like this sort of built-in utility rail and things that are kind of there. It's a canvas for people to go and build upon. I kind of see it, here's a vehicle that is massively capable off-road, but it's kind of up to you to sort of go and make it your own. Down to the rear doors, that we've got a split door, we've got a really thin one that means you don't have to open the big heavy door with a wheel on it. You can just open the little door, put your tool bag in there, close the door, and off you go. It's not a difficult, complicated route.
The look is kind of interesting though, isn't it? Because clearly it has to be functional. It's got to get the job done. It's got to work, particularly for those people who are going to work it.
That's often engineer-led. So like the wheel arches, for example, you just mentioned, that wasn't anything to do with styling. That was going off with the engineers and driving this thing as on the most extreme off-road that they can. What's the limit? How much space do we need for these wheel arches? That's what we went with. Then that sets up quite interesting sort of design parameters there. So you're saying, well, we can't touch that because that's starting to compromise the performance of it.
It's function every time, but actually you've still got to sell it. It's still got to look good. Because
it's been sort of engineering led, it doesn't mean it has to be ugly. I think again in the same way that you don't have to build it badly because it's a working vehicle. We can still make it look good and interesting and really consider every square millimetre of it. I'm sure it will continue to develop, and also there's the sort of pickup version as well. It's going to be following hot on the heels, I think.
Oh, so hang on. So I've always had it in my head that the station wagon is going to be the vehicle that is the Grenadier.
Yeah.
There's been lots of discussion about, well, yeah, but hang on, I want a tipper and I want a pickup truck and I want this and I want that. Is that already, you're thinking about that now?
Yeah, certainly. And certainly the sort of double cab pickup is something that we've been working on in parallel. But yeah, certainly that's the mindset, is to make it a proper family vehicle.
Because as a working tool, that is so important to end user.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the whole spirit of this sort of vehicle, is that there's not a single use for it, and people do like to modify and adapt and build onto existing vehicles, and so that's always been in the back of our minds.
I know from personal experience that vehicles that I love very much, that are utility vehicles, have not been comfortable. I enjoy it, but I have to really kind of put up with some suffering to get that enjoyment. And why should that be the case?
Well, I think that was a lot of the thought was that you don't have to make it badly, you don't have to suffer just because you're using your vehicle to go to work in. You can be comfortable, you can be dry and warm. Obviously you're going to work with it, but if you are using it as a sort of recreation vehicle, it's still engaging and it's fun, but it's also comfortable, and that was a really a big driver, I think.
Are there elements of what we're looking at now that for you are kind of almost eureka moments?
So much work went into that bonnet, and there's a really good moment on that actually, where they're saying actually we need an extra 2 centimetres for the pedestrian impact, and it's all right. Absolutely, everyone's checked that we can't get the engine any lower. No, it can't be any. So can we see the engine? There's a big plastic cover on the top of it, and I said, well, do we need the plastic cover? No, that's just how the engine comes. Okay, well, if we take that off, oh no, it's fine then.
You can't have known when you started this how it was going to turn out. Is it kind of how you thought it would turn out?
I think probably about a year ago, I thought, yeah, it feels really right now, and it fit, and I got very comfortable with that, and then it's just sort of got better and better. Every time I go into the studio now and see it, I'm really comfortable with it.
We've seen the clay. There's some more work to be done on that. So what happens now then?
I mean, we're pretty happy with most of it. So as I say, there's a few details that need to be resolved yet. But also we've obviously got to do our testing, which we want to do in sort of plain sight, because we're partly because we're all really excited about it. I don't see any problem in kind of doing that openly and welcoming feedback and comments, and it'd be great to get people to actually test it and drive it, so we can make a truly brilliant vehicle in the end.
I hope that's given you a real sense of what the Grenadier is going to look like and why. And yes, I know what you're thinking. You want to see more, don't you? We'll take a look at this. In the last episode, you got to see what the Grenadier will eventually look like. Well, now's your chance to hear it and to see it undergoing some of its preliminary testing. Yes, I'm back in Austria to catch up with the engineers responsible for developing and testing the Grenadier's powertrain. And that is actually a lot steeper than it looks. Early prototype Grenadiers called 2As are being used to specially calibrate petrol and diesel variants of the same BMW 3-litre 6-cylinder engine. The tuning and testing programme is being led by engineer George Fuchs. That's cool. It sounds really smooth though.
Yeah.
So the two engine options are going to be what, just to clarify?
So here you can see the diesel version, and before on the test track you have seen the petrol version. Both are 3-litre versions with 6 straight cylinders.
Why take an existing engine that's being used for a different purpose off the shelf and modify it, rather than just go, let's build a brand new engine from scratch?
We know we can count on the BMW one. We fulfill all emission standards on every market. We know we can adapt this engine for the use of the Grenadier project. The most important thing is to have a high amount of torque at low engine revs. We need a robust engine, and we need an engine we can count on, because we need to be flexible and have a high amount of torque and power, be able to bring up the vehicle, also with a trailer, for example, up the hill.
How hard is it retuning, recalibrating either a diesel or petrol version of this to make it the right engine for Grenadier?
We need 2 to 3 years of calibration activities. So we have several loops, winter testing, several loops in hot climate testing, emission testing and so on.
So in terms of calibration then, and what you can change, what are you actually fiddling with and changing when you're calibrating?
It's a mix of old components which are relevant for the engine, the air intake system, then you have cooling temperature, you have fuel supply, you have the exhaust system. Here you can see in front, these are approximately 12 pressure sensors which are measuring the pressure in the fuel supply, in the cooling system and so on.
Where's the data capturing equipment?
In the back of the vehicle.
All right, okay. Now it's looking complicated. So what are all these boxes?
So on the left side in green color you can see all the temperature measurement points, and then to the right the flow rate sensors and the pressure sensors.
And so then all that lot then just hooks up to one laptop?
Then we check it after every test.
So you guys have already done extensive testing, 18 months or so. How much more have you got to do?
So approximately 1 year is left. And in total we will travel 1.8 million kilometers.
That's a lot of testing.
Yeah.
INEOS Automotive is working with off-road engineering giant Magna to develop not only the Grenadier's engine options but also its heavy-duty transmission. Its facilities here in Austria are world-renowned. The gearbox programme is being led by INEOS engineer Jobs Wallow. I'm keen to find out firsthand how things are going, and there's a burning question that needs a straight answer. Will there be a manual option?
No.
Why not?
We've reviewed all the options and we believe that the Auto is the best option. It offers the full suite of functionality for the experienced drivers but also for the inexperienced drivers. These are both a ZF8HB, 8-speed automatic transmission with torque converter, fully electronic control, best in class, definitely.
And in terms of the features in it that make it better for off-road use, for the kind of customers who are going to end up driving these vehicles?
Oh, definitely. It has a torque converter which prevents stall, increases torque. There's a manual mode for the enthusiasts to select their gear and keep that gear, or keep it in drive for the inexperienced drivers.
So the transfer case, this has been a big part of the powertrain development for Grenadier, hasn't it?
Yes, it's massive. We've developed a transfer case from a blank sheet of paper.
Why was that so important for this project?
This is the part that makes this car a 4x4. If you don't have the transfer case right, then your off-road performance will be not as good as it should be. We are targeting to be best in class, so the transfer case needs to be that too.
So what essentially is unique about the transfer case?
The fact that it's permanent 4x4. There's not many manufacturers doing that. Most of them choose to go for a permanent rear-wheel drive and then have the user select the 4x4. We've deliberately decided not to do so. We want to offer our customers this experience and understand also you're driving on the road, you decide to make a detour through the country or whatever, the countryside. There's no complex switches and buttons to be used, or you need to stop to put it in 4x4. You just take the corner and you've got drive on all four wheels.
In terms of operation though, this is a manual selection,
yes.
High and low range.
Correct, so it's manually high and low range and manually diff lock. That was a deliberate decision again. The manual shifting system is it's rugged, it's durable, and it's also very well serviceable in the field.
Where are you with the current development?
We're building 100 plus full vehicle prototypes. So we've moved from component testing into system testing, and now we're going to do full vehicle testing. So for the next coming year and more, there's going to be a whole bunch of cars running around the whole world. That means cars doing calibration on every aspect of the car. Transmission, engine, brakes, ESP, ABS, everything. Durability runs, hot climate, cold climate. We're going to see America, we're going to see Africa, we're going to see New Zealand this year, we're going to see Australia, everywhere.
How does that feel for the engineering team at INEOS?
It's Christmas. It is, because you've been working on virtual components on a computer screen for every engineer. That's a magic moment. But also a new phase in the program, because now you're going to put these components to their pace. It's going to be an exciting period.
So, to recap, the Grenadier will launch with diesel and petrol options of the same proven 3-litre straight-six engine, hooked up to variants of a best-in-class 8-speed auto gearbox with driver override. The transfer case, being developed from scratch, promises full manual control. That's it for now. See you next time. A little over a year ago, no one had even heard of the Grenadier. Now everyone in the off-road world is talking about it, and one thing has become very clear. As potential drivers, users, owners of this extraordinary 4x4, you are hungry for engineering and design detail. Well, no problem. Welcome back to building the Grenadier. For this episode, we've invited some serious off-roaders to take an exclusive first look at a very special Grenadier prototype, Chassis 001. All right, fellas, I want you to take a look at something.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I know you want to get underneath.
Look at that, absolutely.
I've always been a lover of what I call the iconic 4x4s, and this to me is an iconic 4x4 for sure.
The size, the way it's laid out, the position of the engine, everything I've looked at so far, it's going to be a workhorse. Can't wait to get hold of one.
That's nice. I love this.
For a split door like this, there's a really brilliant wide opening area to load and offload really heavy kit. I can imagine putting a pallet in there with oil in for the machines, no problem at all. Good departure angles, and actually good approach angles as well, but it's quite a wide bumper, but I like that because it can accept winches as well. Check them out then.
Check them out.
Splendid.
I tell you what, it's going to be very hard to drag these guys away, but they can take as long as they like, because the whole point of today is to hear what they think whilst the Grenadier is still a work in progress. Now, I know it doesn't look like it is from the outside, but on the inside, it's very clear that there are still a lot of engineering and design decisions to be made, although the interior itself is nearly finished and I should be able to show you it in a few weeks' time. But the wait is over when it comes to the wheels and tyres. Following a rigorous research and development programme, INEOS engineers chose 17-inch steel wheels as the standard setup. But as you know, there's loads more prototype testing underway, so that choice can't be confirmed just yet. INEOS has clearly never made a tyre, never made a wheel before, so how did you go about developing what is a unique bespoke package for this vehicle?
So we started the selection process more than a year ago with some tests on our first prototypes, and after the evaluation of these tests we nominated Bridgestone as a capable but also a very willing supplier.
The Grenadier will come with tailor-made Bridgestone tyres as standard. INEOS believes Bridgestone is the perfect tyre partner. The company has nearly a century of experience, plus the necessary global network to support a 4x4 built for the world's most remote places. So tyre options, there will be, for people who want something more aggressive, there will be an option for a BF Goodrich tyre. The standard tyre is the one that you, Andy, at Bridgestone are developing, which is this. Now this is a demo tyre. Yep. It's because you walk up and go, it's a little bit small, yeah. But it demonstrates actually the tread pattern. So you're saying that you've got a tyre you've already developed, it's been proven, it's been tested. Absolutely. But you're then kind of up-speccing it specifically for the Grenadier.
Absolutely. So we've changed the compound initially so that it's got better off-road performance, particularly in the snow, and also we've changed the construction slightly to make it more tuned, and this particularly helps with the steering in laden and fully laden conditions with a trailer.
Lots of people, when buying cars, there's kind of perception, isn't there, that standard means second best. That's not the case here, is it?
Absolutely not, no. So we've worked really hard with the Grenadier team to make sure that what is offered to the standard fitment is absolutely what is required for the vast majority of people running the Grenadier. So the package that we've put together with the wheel and the tyre is suitable, it's snowflake marked, so it performs as well in the snow as it does in the mud, and it is great on-road capability as well.
So let's just focus on the rims. From a materials point of view, is the reason you've gone for steel as the standard as obvious as you might expect, that it's incredibly robust and you can beat it with a hammer if you bend it?
It has to be robust, for a car, but also durable, and steel wheels would be perfect for for use in winter and also for hard road conditions.
From a sizing point of view, you've gone for 17-inch and 18-inch diameter rims. Why not 16?
In terms of brakes, we had to respect a specific package to perform as expected, and clearly the 16 didn't fit, for our brake system. So that's why we didn't go through 16 inches.
Wheel options will be larger 18-inch steels or unique alloys in both sizes, all fitted with the Bridgestone tyres. All right, what's been your kind of general feeling?
It's just like ticking boxes, good engine, reliability, tech, automatic gearbox, reliability, tech, transmission, it's all there, all the axles. The way the body's built, put together, the big doors at the back, it's all there.
You see it, on all the social media posts, the previous videos. You've seen all of that. We've all watched them, but actually to come here and see it and to measure up against what we were expecting.
It's very much a very exciting project, and I can't wait to see this thing out on the road.
When you're trying to make a vehicle like this, the ultimate off-roader that's going to be used in incredibly varied conditions. In the automotive world, that's a hell of a thing to try and create a vehicle that's capable of doing all that. Do you get the sense this is a compromise?
No.
This is the vehicle you want for the next 20 years. You're just trying to make your vehicle as reliable as it is, because there's nothing else out there at the moment to, replace it.
We keep utilising older and older vehicles because there's nothing there that I feel can replace what I've got at the moment. And then coming to have a look at this, it's looking pretty good, to be honest.
It's nice that standard is on steels though.
Car manufacturers constantly are pushing alloys to you. Steel wheel's fantastic, it does what it says on the tin. That's what a lot of people are going to want out of this.
Yeah. How many of you have bashed out a bent steel wheel with a big hammer?
Yeah, a few times. Sitting there with a sledgehammer and smashing it back on, putting it back straight. Oh yeah, it's a little bit buckled. I'll be all right, blow it up, and off you go again.
But it works, doesn't it?
It works every time.
And it gets you home.
Exactly, no, it'll always get you home.
Listen guys, a huge thank you from all of us. There'll be more chances to get involved in the future, so keep an eye out, and it could be you. That's it for now. Join me for the next episode of Building the Grenadier. So things are really ramping up now. In this episode, I want to take you behind the scenes of the new prototype production line in Austria and a first look inside the factory where your Grenadier will be built. After more than a year testing early development vehicles, they call the 2As, the Grenadier project has reached a major milestone. INEOS Automotive's engineering partner in Austria is now building a fleet of much more advanced next-generation prototypes. You guessed it, the 2Bs. Hans-Peter Pessler is the engineer in charge.
We have around about 250 engineers working on this project, so everybody is pushing forward very hard because it's a big challenge.
You've got loads of experience in the automotive industry, building cars for all kinds of big companies. What have been the real challenges that Grenadier's thrown at you?
The first challenge was to understand what INEOS wants to have, so to get their ideas into the paper, into the sketches, into the computer, and then finally into this car. We are very happy that we have these 2A vehicles right now, and the next big phase is the 2B.
And how many?
Round about, let's say, 80 plus.
Welcome to the Grenadier's first small-scale production line. It's been created not just to build the limited run of new prototypes, but also to test and perfect every stage of the process, from start to finish. Experience gained here is helping the team plan the path to mass production. Each Grenadier is built from around 350 individual panels. A complex 3D jigsaw held together by glue and weld. The doors and closures are aluminium. The rest of the body is galvanised steel. The shells are protected with 4 coats of paint applied in a 7-stage process. Most will be white, black or silver. A few will have contrasting roofs. All the chassis are powder-coated white to help detect cracks during testing. Axles and powertrains are supplied pre-assembled. The majority left-hand drive. It takes just over a month to build each prototype from scratch, but there are 8 vehicles in build at any one time. When they leave here, these 2B prototypes will be put through extensive safety and performance testing. Some are destined for high-tech automotive science laboratories. Others will be shipped around the world to see if nature can break them. Lessons will be learned, of course, and the Grenadier will continue to evolve over the coming months. Yes, it definitely looks the part. Now the engineers must prove it can get the job done. Now, as you may know, INEOS Automotive has bought a manufacturing site in Hambach, and it will be the home of the Grenadier. So I thought you might like to take a closer look. It's a massive facility, one of the most advanced vehicle assembly plants anywhere in the world, thanks to the 500 million euros invested in it by Mercedes-Benz. Packed with state-of-the-art technology, it comes with a highly skilled team, all trained to Mercedes' exacting standards. The fully fitted factory just needs repurposing and reprogramming to build Grenadiers. And this is the man getting the job done. Obviously, Eric, there's been a lot of discussion about where Grenadier's factory will be. Why did you end up in Hambach?
We looked at several sites throughout Europe, and then this was a unique opportunity where Mercedes had a change of strategy that coincided with us looking for a plant. And the blessing here was that Mercedes has actually designed this plant for full-size SUVs.
So very much a commercial opportunity then that you simply couldn't turn down?
It's not only commercial, I would say, it's a whole package. It's production cost, but it's also quality and capacity.
So what have you actually got to do to get the facility ready for Grenadier?
You can say that you have maybe 3 categories of work that needs to be done there. We have some cells we just need to change some fixtures, need to reprogram the robots and so on. And we have some cells that needs to be rearranged. These are modular cells, so maybe some robot needs to be moved from one place to another. And then you have the 3rd category where we actually tear the whole cell down, and then what we do is we rebuild it. And all of that is done in the body shop here behind me.
In terms of quality control, what are you doing to make sure that Grenadier is fit for purpose and is going to be built to the reliability and quality standards that we as customers will expect?
We have a very advanced, well-equipped quality department here with very experienced former Mercedes quality people. And the focus is really based on the workstation to make sure that before a vehicle goes from one zone to the next zone, that the people that are actually working in that zone ensures that the quality is correct. They don't pass on bad quality to the next station. We have 4 levels of quality at the station itself, at the end of that particular line, before shipping out, and then we also have the audit process.
So from where you're sitting right now, what are the big challenges coming up?
So the next step is you build the 2Bs, which are not kind of production intent material. Just to make sure that the vehicle goes together, you learn how to build the vehicle from that. Then what we do is we go into the next phase, and that's when we start to build prototypes using the actual production process. Then what you do is you ramp up the production then up until the speed that you want to run it.
Listen, Eric, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So the most advanced Grenadiers yet are now rolling off the prototype assembly line. And having taken over the existing high-tech factory in Hambach, INEOS engineers can now focus on refining the build process for mass production. So some very big developments. See you next time. Rugged, robust and reliable. That's what we want and that's what we've been promised. So how are the INEOS engineers ensuring they deliver? Welcome back to Building the Grenadier. Well, the answer is an unrelenting obsession with testing. And that's the destiny of around 100 latest generation prototypes, the 2Bs, that are being built by Magna in Austria. Some are already being evaluated in super high-tech laboratory workshops, others shipped around the world to be punished in some of the most extreme environments on Earth. So I'm going to catch up with Head of Engineering Oliver Schlipf to find out how the Grenadier is shaping up in the real world. Oliver, talk to me about 2B testing.
Our main purpose of the beginning of the testing was really to validate our concept. You can develop something on the board and on the computer, but you really see for the first time when you're sitting in the vehicle, when you're crashing the vehicles, does it really come everything together like planned, like simulated? We are really satisfied with the results from our hardware testing till now. They are very close to our simulations, and that is always a good sign, because that is the starting point for further developments and for further improvements.
The first part of the 2B testing programme has already been completed successfully. In Sweden, drivetrain and safety systems have been evaluated in sub-zero conditions on snow and ice. In the Alps, the Grenadier has been put through its paces at high altitude. In terms of the whole package of field testing, the figure that's always been in my head is this 1.8 million kilometres of testing. Is that on track?
At the moment, so all the testing is ongoing. We have a plan with the vehicles. They're running those kilometers, I would say, on-road and off-road. We have 1.8 million as a final goal. We will ride more than 300,000 off-road kilometers out of that. Probably we are 20 to 25% through at the moment. Right now we started our rough road durability testing. We have our water tightness program, a corrosion protection program, and then we continue with our winter testing behind us, preparing now summer testing, preparing high-speed testing, and looking forward to the remaining program of the 2B vehicles.
Give me a sense of geographically where testing is going on.
We're testing in more than 15 countries at the moment. We choose the countries with the most challenging environments. We will test in Austria, Germany, Italy, Spain, South Africa, Namibia, Sweden, Iceland, United States.
Has there been any learning from the testing, Oliver, that's fed back into the engineering and development teams that's actually made a difference to what customers will end up getting?
Yeah, absolutely. If we talked about very good results in the crash tests, we are able to improve the behavior of the airbags. That is feeding back to our engineers, and they keep on improving on those topics. We found out pretty at the beginning of our 2B program with our chassis tuning vehicles. In regards of drivability and stability, we will adjust a little our axle geometry. That is going on through all the vehicle, starting with the chassis, going through body in white, testing of interior, and everything is done to improve the maturity of the vehicle when we go into our serial production and at the end in the customer's hands.
The balance between on-road and off-road, there's always the concern, surely there has to be a compromise somewhere. It can't be brilliant in both places.
We have a promise to build one of the best off-road vehicles in the world, but we are also aware that probably the vehicle will see more kilometers on-road than off-road with our customers. So we need to make sure that you have a very good on-road performance, and for sure we keep our promise to have a fantastic off-road performance.
So Oliver, are you on schedule?
So we have some delays, no major delays, but with everything going on in the last 12 months we have some delays. But it was clear in our organization we will not compromise on testing. So we have our testing program and we will go through all the testing program without taking shortcuts. We will stick to the plan to deliver our product to our customers.
I understand that Jim Ratcliffe got to drive the 2B for the first time, and a really important milestone in the project because ultimately he has to sign it off. How did it go?
We met him in Graz, took him with us to the famous Schöckel mountain to really do the rough road testing together with him. He was happy with the performance of the vehicle. Sure, we have some work to do to improve on some topics, to improve maturity of the overall vehicle. But he was pretty happy. I would say he's not just our most important customer, he's also challenging the program a lot. He knows what he's talking about, and we will deliver.
So it's going to be a busy few months for the prototype fleet, and not just testing. One of the 2Bs will be supporting the INEOS Grenadiers cycling team as its official reconnaissance vehicle through this season's racing campaign. And you'll have a chance to get inside another one yourself at a global roadshow. More details coming soon. There's a lot going on. The wait is over. Today is the day. You're about to see the inside of the Grenadier. So it's a big day. How are you feeling?
Yeah, excited. Pleased to be able to show everybody what we've been beavering away at for the last few years.
A lot of people have wanted to see the interior for months and months and months. Is it a really intense design process doing the inside?
It is intense, but also, because it's such a tactile thing, that we're going to sit in there, we're going to spend time in there. We wanted to be really confident that it was right.
So where did you kind of start in terms of positioning the interior between, at the one end, in the 4x4 world, you've got the unbelievably uncomfortable, almost military agricultural end of the market that many of us are familiar with, and the other end, you've got these incredibly overly luxurious, ridiculously overspec'd 4x4 SUVs. Where in the middle are you?
Both ends of the scale have merit. To have something very, very simple, easy to maintain, very sort of analog and logical was really our sort of starting point. But equally, the other extreme other end, why shouldn't you be really comfortable, and why shouldn't you actually be warm? I feel like we've found a new sort of spot really in between those. Hopefully we've got a really good balance in the middle.
It must be nice though to be able to take the dogs for a walk and not have people shouting across the field, "Oi Toby, when are we going to get to see the inside?"
Yeah, that hasn't stopped.
I've got to say, first thing, you have completely nailed these seats, haven't you?
Yeah. Are you comfortable?
This is... I'm not used to this level of comfort in my 4x4, let me tell you. I mean, they're really, really nice seats.
Some people are going to spend an awful lot of time in here. This is their office. So, why wouldn't you at least be comfortable and warm and dry? Which was always our kind of mantra from the start, really.
Again, it is its own, it's unique. You do not see this kind of switchgear, overhead panel. This is different.
Having the central stack means that everybody can be engaged in the whole process of driving and the journey.
Inevitably big screen, but what's it for? Given, I mean, this vehicle has far less in the way of electronic control systems.
Yeah. I mean, you can choose what goes on there to a degree, that you've got all your sort of performance that's going on there, but then you've got all your sort of entertainment stuff through there. You've also got all your off-roading.
So would this interface include sat-nav and all that kind of stuff, or are you basically moving towards a world which says we all carry the computers around with us all the time as a phone?
Exactly, absolutely correct. And our thinking was that by the time this had actually come to production, that whatever sat-nav we'd put in there would probably be out of date. It moves so quickly, and yet we're all walking around with really powerful computers in our pockets all the time. So let's utilise that.
And is that generally in the interior? I'm thinking about things like seat adjustment and all the rest of it. Have you tried wherever possible to get rid of electronics? Because that's been one of the big arguments, isn't it, about the users? Is saying, please, 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 do not make this vehicle overly complicated, unnecessarily complicated.
For sure, and so in the seats we have no motors. We have this novel thing called a lever to operate the seats, to go forward and back and up and down, and make all the adjustments. Because sure, we could have put motors in there, but it's just an added complication. And then if we are going to hose this vehicle out, last thing we want is water flying around electric motors. So up to the wading depth, everything's waterproof.
And just picking up on that point, you can actually wash out the footwell.
Yeah, so there's plugs in the floor that you can remove to drain it out. So.
Ideally, what I'd like is a vehicle which you can hose down outside and inside. The farmer got in, and when he got out, he could hose it down and wash it out, and that's what we'd like to do with the new one.
And so just going back to the switchgear, how have you divided it all up in terms of, so what do these different panels do?
Okay, so we've got all the sort of air conditioning, we've got basically the sort of the comfort, if you like, in here. So it's your window heaters and essentially the sort of things that keep you warm, but parking assist and eco sort of cut-off thing for the engine. But then all the off-road gear then is kept separately, so we're not searching as we're driving along going, I really need to turn off the diff. Where are they? Oh, that's the air conditioning gone. It's kind of broken down into very separate areas.
And so obviously conventional place for high low range, automatic gearbox controls in there. What's this?
This lovely touch screen that we have. Obviously that's not going to work if you're wearing wet, thick gloves. So you've always got the sort of the manual option on the top, so you can then do everything you can on the screen. You can use on the central rotary knob as well.
And the switchgear, this is chunky stuff. It's so big hands, gloves on, you can still operate all this stuff. Oh God, I love the fact that it makes that noise.
There is something quite cool about kind of engaging all your switches, and in your head you're flying an aeroplane or driving a ship, or there's just something a bit more kind of fun about it, I guess.
This is, I think, is just a brilliant idea. It's well executed for lots of functional reasons, and aesthetically, it definitely ticks boxes from my point of view. It just looks great. It looks as if it means business, and it does. So it's not fake from that point of view.
No, there's always a thing that it had to be authentic. We didn't want anything that was sort of frivolous or arbitrary. Everything has a reason and a function, and if it didn't, then it didn't really make the cut. So just having all these auxiliary switches already wired in, so that if you do decide you want to go and put on extra driving lamps or camping gear or winches, then you're not kind of ripping headlinings down that you'll never get back in quite the same way that it came down in the first place, or you're drilling holes. It's all kind of there, ready to go. It's literally just sort of hook up the wires and off we go.
Talking of customising the interior to your own needs, the steering wheel's an interesting thing, isn't it?
We really like the idea that it kind of grows with you a little bit, and actually this is made of really beautiful saddle leather that will kind of mature with time. It will grow and it will gain a patina that becomes very sort of personal to the people that are driving it all the time. So that kind of actually is a living element of the vehicle as well. We can do that because we're a new automotive company. We're not governed by years of people telling us that that's what they want. We can sort of take a punt and say, well, look, we think this is a really nice, engaging element. It feels really nice. It feels like real leather.
The red toot button with a bicycle on it. Not seen that on a car before.
No, it's amazing, isn't it?
What is it?
Often when you're kind of approaching a cyclist, if you want to make them aware that you're there, you often try to do a sort of a gentle kind of hoot, and it ends up as a full-blown klaxon which scares the living daylights out of everybody. Or you're seeing a friend or something, but you never quite get it right because you're hitting the middle of the wheel and it ends up as a comes out as an aggressive sort of thing.
And no push to start button.
No, we've got a traditional key.
A proper key.
Proper key.
How many sheep can you get in the back?
Well, lengthwise, you're going to get one in, but 3.
3, good, excellent. Overall, I tell you, the big thing, you get a real sense of the amount of thought that's gone into this, but also the number of things you've had to think about.
I mean, it's almost as much as the exterior, I think. We've been really kind of brutal in drilling down into what you really need, what you don't really need. It's a pretty close match to some of the earlier sort of first thoughts, really. So yeah, very, very pleased.
So was the wait worth it? Well, I'm sure you'll let Grenadier know, but if you already like it so much you want one, well, good news. I've just heard you'll be able to reserve one from October. See you next time. We know what it looks like and we're excited by how it's being engineered, but what is it like to drive? Welcome back to Building the Grenadier. I've come to check out the Grenadier Prototype Tour. It's a global series of experience events that gives the likes of you and me the chance to get up close and personal with the Grenadier almost a year before it goes on sale, and that's incredibly unusual in the motor industry. But INEOS Automotive says that being so open now, whilst the vehicle's still in development, is absolutely critical to it delivering the kind of off-road utility vehicle that customers around the world are crying out for. It's slightly surreal, Mark, being inside a moving Grenadier. What amazes me is that the fact that only 3 years ago this was a blank sheet of paper. I've said it a million times, but to get it to this level in this amount of time and to produce something that's as good as this. I mean, it's not perfect yet. There's things that have got to change still, but that's the whole point. It's still in development. But even at this stage, this is remarkable.
It's almost there, and with the opportunity of some fine tuning, this vehicle is gold standard, to be honest. This gearbox is totally seamless. It will change gear much more accurately than a human being, to be honest. However, if there was enthusiasts and they like to use the gears and they want to, override the gear, well, you can do that as well. You can Tiptronic it and then tell the gearbox what to do. So it has the best of both worlds. If you look at the future terrain, we've got quite a steep descent coming up. I can literally just drop it into first gear on the Tiptronic.
So we're in first, low, centre diff lock.
Yeah, and
foot off everything?
Off the brakes, foot off everything, and that's got perfect vehicle control. And that is gold standard as far as I'm concerned. And even with weight, so I've been testing this vehicle with 4 adults in here and kit in the back, the vehicle will still maintain composure on a descent like that. There is a hill descent control on this for when you're in higher range.
Right.
So if you was in higher range, you could use a hill HDC button, which gives you that automatic braking from the descent.
So how have you found the power delivery then? Because obviously a lot of effort went into recalibrating the engine specifically for Grenadier.
It produces a huge amount of torque, and torque is everything in an off-road world. You don't want the power of a Bugatti Veyron, you want the torque of a tractor when you're in an off-road environment. The way it delivers the drive, it's just totally seamless. And the engine and gearbox are proven units, so they've been around a long time. And to elect this motor with this gearbox, this ZF gearbox, is a marriage in heaven. So it just works perfectly off-road. It just feels really planted and secure.
Which as a driver is a great feeling, isn't it? That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always excited when I jump into this.
That's brilliant.
I test a lot of vehicles for the military, and I've done it with the fire service and police and whatever. In terms of off-road, I've been exposed to quite a lot of different platforms, and I was extremely excited when I drove this for the first time.
Back at base camp, I catch up with Amy Taylor to find out more about the Prototype Tour. What an amazing location to find as well, because it gives so much diversity in the terrain that you can drive the Grenadier over.
Yeah, and that's what we want. We want to be able to show the capability of the vehicle
although it's in its prototype stage, we can, take it off-road, do dynamic routes and show people what they've got to look forward to.
What's the feedback been from, because you've been running these for a while now, so what's the general feedback been?
Yeah, feedback has been amazing so far. Just being a passenger, they can kind of see how it performs with a professional driving it. The opportunity to see the prototype at this stage, I think, is a really exclusive experience.
Folk have been able to see, the interior reveal, the exterior reveal, all that's been online and in the films we've made and everything. But I mean, this is the first time people have actually been able to get in a vehicle and with it driven. What's their reaction been when they've got out?
I mean, the reactions have been amazing. To actually see it in the flesh and then get to be a passenger. As a passenger and having a test ride, it's been great, but they really do want that test drive. And so that'll be the next stage where we actually invite people to drive it.
So it's not just the UK, this is very much a global tour.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've started in the UK and Germany, and we'll be going through the rest of Europe, also Sub-Saharan Africa, Australia, the Middle East and the US.
Having been driven around in the Grenadier as a passenger, it's now my turn to get behind the wheel of this extraordinary prototype. Tell you what, it was impressive there, but I'm looking at your face and going, it's going to be even more impressive here, isn't it? Nice driving position, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that you haven't got a big console in front of you, great forward view.
Yeah, in terms of off-road, you need to be able to have a clear view of the future terrain, and that's really important.
Feels completely effortless.
Yeah.
Feels like you're gliding.
It does, yeah.
Honestly, it feels almost, I know, the better description, it feels almost like you're a hovercraft.
Yeah, exactly, I know.
You're almost floating over it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
What a joy to drive.
Yeah. All the components work really well together, and the beam axles, that's a simple system, but the way that it's been tuned by Magnus Steyr just gives a beautiful ride. So with all those components together, you just got a really smooth platform, and that's important.
The engineers have done an extraordinary job, haven't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Everything feels as if it's properly engineered.
In terms of these road shows, we've had exposure with professional users, enthusiasts, lifestyle, all people that use four-wheel drives in different forms and different ways. But what you're getting is all that information from a huge range, a huge sector of people, and it's really important information.
I tell you, the really strange thing is that I sort of having to stop and go, I'm actually driving a Grenadier. I've seen so many images and pictures and all the reveals of the interior, the exterior, the underneath, the rolling chassis. Actually to be driving
a working example,
It's amazing. At the end of a brilliant day, I catch up with some of the invited guests to hear their first impressions of the Grenadier off-road. So you all got back in one piece and smiling, so that's good. I hope it was the Grenadier and not the fact that we're offering you a burger. What did you think about actually going out in the Grenadier for a drive?
Very smooth. Yeah, that was my first impression. I don't think I've been in a vehicle as smooth as that for many years.
The way in which it both handled the train, also the comfort that went with that, went hand in hand. And in a sense, you shouldn't get both of those things, but somehow with the Grenadier you do, which was a pleasant surprise and really exceptional and great to see. So it was a delight, it really was.
The most impressive thing for me was the quietness, because normally we shout at each other, especially if we're in the back. Can you speak up? You can hardly listen to the radio, and in that it was just so quiet. I was really, really impressed.
How smooth it was going down the country lanes. It'd be great for us every day. I'm up and down farm drives most days, and some of them are terrible. When you're on a bumpy track all day, it gets a bit tiresome.
The ride quality on both, if you went to a short gravel track and going quite fast, it was very composed under acceleration, and over the sort of undulating ground, when you apply the power, you didn't get any sort of axle tramping or bouncing or shuddering through the axles. Really, really smooth.
I just think they've really got it right, the way they've set it up. It was so smooth, you could hardly hear it, and the power, it was just great. I just can't wait to get behind the wheel and have a go myself.
It's great, let me tell you. You know, it's a pretty brave move to give these Grenadier prototypes such a public outing at this early stage. But I also think it's a very smart move because as potential customers, people like us are being given the opportunity to be a real part of the Grenadier story. INEOS Automotive is making us feel as if we own a bit of this extraordinary off-roader way before we can actually buy a whole one. And I think that's really clever. See you next time. Don't forget, reservations open in October. If you think it's hard producing a few hundred prototypes, wait until you try building customer cars in their thousands. So how are the INEOS engineers getting on, gearing up for Grenadier mass production? Welcome to Hambach. This huge factory, previously owned by Mercedes, had almost €500 million invested in it a couple of years ago, before INEOS took control last January. Since then, 50 million more has been injected, modifying the plant for Grenadier production. Taking over an existing high-tech facility with a skilled workforce has given the engineers a massive head start. Their focus now is on build quality and production safety, both top INEOS priorities. The Grenadier production line starts right here in this brand new state-of-the-art body shop, and it's absolutely vast, the size of 6 football pitches, and it's home to 252 robots that can build a complete Grenadier body shell in just 6 hours. So Eric, I remember us having a Zoom conversation a year or so ago when you gave me that tantalising glimpse through the window of your office when you just moved in. You didn't tell me it was this big.
Most people when they come here they get surprised because even if we explain how big it is, it's very hard to imagine the amount of equipment that goes in that is required to build an automotive body.
I mean, this is a robotic ecosystem, kind of supported by human beings. Why have you decided to build these bodies with robots?
As you may recall, we bought the plant from Mercedes, and that's the reason why we have this to start with. So we started off with a plant that was the most modern in Europe, and now we have improved on that for the Grenadier.
So it is state-of-the-art, but I mean, compared to the rest of the motor manufacturing industry, is this right at the top in terms of tech?
This is right at the top. This is the newest body shop in Europe right now. Yeah.
So when the production's up at full capacity, how many do you pull off to do the more invasive testing, the destructive testing, the ultrasound? It's not every vehicle, obviously.
So what you do is, of course, in the beginning of the process, you make more tests. When you have the stable process, you then define, its quality department defines then how many tests you're going to be doing. Inline testing in the machinery is, of course, done on every vehicle coming out.
So let's move on to the paint shop. Just talk to me about the paint shop. Again, another brand new state-of-the-art facility.
It's as environmentally friendly as it can be. It's a water-based paint shop. It's state-of-the-art electrocoating, state-of-the-art paint process. And what is, I think, specific for this paint shop right now is that the sealant that we're putting on the body to ensure the water tightness for weighting is of course something that is more advanced than you would find in a regular paint shop.
Obviously there was a lot of discussion a year or so ago when you made a decision to pull out of the factory in Wales and in Portugal, and you decided to come here. Why Hambach?
Then the opportunity came up that Mercedes-Benz had a change of strategy and said, look, we've just invested, we want to do something different due to COVID and other areas. I mean, we took a look at the site and it's just a fantastic site. Also within the Mercedes-Benz universe, it always has been a high quality site. Excellent team with a good track record of producing vehicles for Mercedes-Benz, and it just accelerated our capability massively. And in hindsight, looking back now in the first year, I could point to so many things that we would have struggled, I think, significantly. Parts availability being one, training of individuals the other. I think walking in here, I mean, it just kicked up the quality so much for the product. So also tapping into that experience, having that opportunity, having people from the side who manufacture vehicles looking over the Grenadier and giving it just that extra kick.
Because when you walk round, my first visit here, I was thinking it would be, you know, you'd be unpacking crates of robots and whatever, but it's really, really motoring here.
Ever since we've taken over, I think we've been modifying the site. I mean, we inherited a site from Mercedes-Benz, which was already well invested. So for us, I think it was the task now to assess what's here, what needs to be modified, and adjusted to build the Grenadier, and that's what we've been doing the last year.
So what are you actually building in here in terms of Grenadier?
We are currently building the first prototypes of the Grenadier, the so-called PT01 cars, so 120, 130, that will be produced until the end of February.
So what's the point of these production tryout vehicles? Is it just to test the actual process of building a Grenadier?
What we have to do in this phase is really to commission and to test all the equipment that were installed in the last 6 to 8 months into the plant in all the 3 shops. And now, let's say, project is hitting the reality and we have really to see if everything that was planned is working according to spec. We have to check if, let's say, the buildability of the parts is also mature enough to a serial production. So that's really the phase we are currently in.
So it's interesting how you do that from my point of view. So the engineers build the early prototypes and have a vehicle that they can test and make sure the engineering works okay. Do you then sort of take that vehicle and all the computer files that go with it and say, right, now we need to take it all apart and literally work out how we put every bolt together in a factory environment where we're having to produce thousands of them?
Exactly. It's really how to make the industrialization of a car. So just to give you an idea, let's say on the improvement we have to do, we have to check how can we in a plant like this produce really serial production. Currently the output of the line is 1 car every 4 to 5 hours, and by the end of this year we should be able to have an output of 1 car every 5 minutes.
So how's it going? Is it, no hitches, or are there challenges that have cropped up?
Oh, we have plenty of challenges to overcome. We also need to embrace that and look for opportunities from within there. A lot of it is proving the logistics, proving the individual parts and having them ready to a high standard. And I'm confident if we found a lot over the last couple of months, we're still finding obviously things now how they come together on the line. Confirming what we've seen and adjusting along the way is the game in town now.
The transformation of this vast facility into a bespoke Grenadier production line in under a year is a truly remarkable feat. But the job is not done yet, because at the moment they're only producing about 5 of these latest prototypes each day. But by the time they're building Grenadiers for you and me, the aim in a few months' time is to be able to drive one of these off this production line every 5 minutes.